Studios in downtown Little Rock. This is Capitol View.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Capitol View. I'm Jay Burr. Well, testing is paramount in Arkansas to get a handle on the COVID pandemic, and now stepping up their efforts are community health centers across the state. And here to talk about those efforts is Chief Executive Officer for the Community Health Centers of Arkansas, LaShannon Spencer. And LaShannon, we certainly hope you're doing all right here. I guess let's just jump right into things here. What are some of those efforts that we're looking at? Because I know the governor had said he wanted community health centers to up from 200 to 2,000 tests per week.
And Jay, we have actually been able to meet 2,000, but more than 2,000. And so I have great numbers. And as you've seen, our governor's numbers, they have definitely increased. We've done mass testing from East Arkansas to Southwest Arkansas to South Arkansas and even to North Arkansas. So I'm just excited to be able to partner with the governor and to be able to truly hold our commitment to ensure that every Arkansan actually has the opportunity to be tested.
And how important is it for you guys to kind of get in on this, especially when it comes to some of those more rural areas of Arkansas?
Well, to be honest, there are 12 health centers in the state of Arkansas and with over 60 site locations. We were actually testing before we went into partnership with the governor and within the Arkansas Department of Health. We understand the value, and we understand that sometimes it's hard for our patient population that we serve to be able to receive such services. So we were actually on the forefront in being able to provide testing, thanks for the partnership with our commercial labs, LabCorp and Quest, and just ensuring that we have those necessary supplies.
Now, I know there was another fascinating little niche to this that you guys were really trying to put out there, and that was to really sort of kind of drive this home to the minority community is that Sunday testing. And you guys were really trying to get into some of those pews and those pulpits out there in some of the other parts of Arkansas as well.
And as promised, we have those great relationships with faith-based leaders, and over in East Arkansas, over in our Crittenden County and St. Francis County, working with our faith-based leaders have just been very critical for us. And it's critical because most Arkansans that live in rural community, they want to see local leaders. They want to see local leaders that have that correlation, that they value their opinion. So what we've been able to do through all of this is to ensure that our partnership with local elected officials, faith-based leaders, are actually a part of our outreach equation to ensure that we reach the masses for them to understand the importance of being tested.
And you mentioned the importance of being tested, and I know Arkansas hasn't been anything like New Orleans or New York City and New Jersey, but I guess to the message, how important has that sort of messaging been to make sure that people do still take this seriously, and that people, if they are showing any symptoms or if they think they even have it at all, that they do need to go get tested?
And as you're asking that question, I think about tomorrow we'll celebrate Memorial Day. And as people understand the significance of social distancing, and especially we're creatures of habit, and we like to be very social, especially Southerners. We want to be able to come together and be with family and friends and to just celebrate. But even with the celebration, we need to be mindful that social distancing, 6 feet, is very critical, not only just for yourself, but for your loved ones, for your residents that are within your household, for your family, and just for your community just as well.
And two, I know the minority community here hasn't been hit in terms of the numbers like we've seen in some other parts of the country. But again, and kind of getting back to that messaging and that saying that this is still important, even though the numbers may not necessarily reflect it here in Arkansas. I guess what's the message to the minority community here in the state?
The message to the minority community is there's so many partners that are working together to ensure that have access, or minority population have access. And so when you start seeing Arkansas has not been impacted, but think about where West Memphis, that borders Tennessee, where a huge outbreak in Tennessee, especially in Memphis, the Shelby County. And also as you go down that Delta border, we're right there across the river from Mississippi. And then we have our southern part of the state, there's Louisiana. So we have to be very cognitive. We had a wonderful mass testing in Chico County, Lake Village. Right across from Lake Village is Mississippi. We tested last Thursday, mainline testing over 200 people during the mass testing. So that's a huge number to be able to test. And majority of those were minority residents.
Well, you guys are certainly doing great work out there, and we certainly appreciate it, and we hope you keep it up. LaShannon Spencer, we will do this again, hopefully when, as you say, Southerners, we can get together, and we'll bring you in
And so,
studio.
Jay, anytime I will definitely be back. You just grant the invitation again.
Absolutely. It's always an open invite for you, LaShannon. We appreciate it. Stay good out there. All right, well, coming up after a quick break, we talk to our friend Chuck Todd. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
We're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. The streets of D.C. are empty, but our hearts are now full because our good friend of the show, Chuck Todd, joins us with what the district is working on. And Chuck, I know the HEROES Act is kind of on the forefront of a lot of minds here. Where do we stand with that? Because it did seem like it was a little surprising that it actually passed out of the House.
I think there was some thought that maybe this week you'd start to see at least the beginnings of negotiations with the Senate, right? I think the mild surprise to those of us in Washington is that there was no formal beginning of those talks. But I'll tell you this, I do think I think as with everything during this pandemic, the virus, outside events will suddenly motivate Congress. Think about what the next 2 Fridays are going to bring us. We're going to have new unemployment claims next week, and then the big May jobs report will come out the first Friday in June. That will be the motivator to start to force some new conversations. The divide is this. You do have Senate Republican leadership who says Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn of Texas have essentially made this argument. They've shoveled a ton of money out the door. Maybe there's let's take a pause, take a breath, let's see how it's working. Others are saying, yes, that's a good idea, but there's still other things you need, aid to states, things like that. So you had Cory Gardner, vulnerable Republican senator in Colorado, tweet the following on Thursday. He said, I can't believe we're about to go into recess and we didn't consider this legislation. Cory Gardner's not the only Republican that's in a tough re-election, and he's not the only Republican who thinks that. He's just the only one who went public. I think you're going to see urgency be created with the outside of events, with these new unemployment numbers that are going to come out, plus some action from vulnerable, pressure from vulnerable Republican senators. And
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Burke's also saying that, the D.C. metro area, one of the highest level of positive cases in the country right now. You were saying even it's just kind of a little bit of a ghost town up there. What's the vibe even like up there? And I know, too, before we kind of came on with you that, it seems like it's one of the last real places that are still shut down, despite what L.A. County was even saying to extend this thing even 3 more months.
Well, I think it presents a real challenge to all of us in journalism, in particular. If you think about the two centers of media and politics and government, right? New York and Washington, still under probably the greatest threat from this virus, still has some of those things. So, I'll just be honest with you. I worry that, we don't want to look myopic. We don't want to look like we're covering our own area too much. Everybody in this country is experiencing some things the same, but we're starting to experience some things differently. So it's been really important for us, for instance, to have as many correspondents around the country, because a lot of the country's in a different place than we are here in the Washington, D.C. area.
And I guess kind of piggybacking off that concept, especially from a legislative standpoint, how does this just make things more difficult to know that there are just different levels of what this virus is doing, has done in different parts of the country, whether it be suburban, rural, whatever the case is?
Well, exactly, and this goes to the fact that we've had some states are really hard hit by the health crisis. Some states are only really hard hit on the economic crisis, and some states are getting hit on both ends of this thing. Take a Michigan, for instance, right? Had a bad outbreak and has, I think, leads the country in raw unemployment claims. So that is, I think, the challenge with designing this. A one size doesn't fit all, but you and I both know this. A senator is going to fight for their own state. And if one senator thinks, wait, why is more money going to them? You know, there becomes this automatic, what about us? And that's what ends up making these things very tough. But I think you're going to have, my guess is at some point they have to come up, take the unemployment claim issue. Well, there's going to be some places where you may have to offer an extension of unemployment because they're in places in lockdown. People want to work, they can't go back to work. But there are going to be other places where people can go back to work. So you could, for instance, say for state X, where everybody can go back to work, they don't need the enhanced unemployment benefits. But maybe state Y does. And I think that's what you have to see this time. They need to write this next bill. You know how sometimes Washington handles things with a meat axe and sometimes they use a scalpel?
Yeah.
This is a case where they need to be very careful, think like a surgeon, and design this carefully.
Absolutely here. And I guess real quickly before we get out of here, Memorial Day coming up here. Again, quickly, just because we always ask our folks here, kind of what does it mean to you?
You know, it's one of those, the hardest part now is seeing that when I was growing up, we honored the World War I and World War II veterans, those that died. And now to see that it's Vietnam. So for my wife and I were discussing this, it's one of those things, it's a reminder that this passage of time, it's just trying to, it's like, it's made me think World War I and World War II are like happened, you know, centuries ago now. When I was growing up, that was what we were honoring on Memorial Day. So that's been the most striking change for me over the last just few years when it comes to Memorial Day, is how now the oldest veterans are from Vietnam.
Yeah, it's wild. It's changing, and some of these veterans, they get a lot younger, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Chuck Todd from Washington, D.C. Boss, we appreciate the time. Stay safe out there and enjoy the holiday. All right, Governor Asa Hutchinson visiting the district. We update you on his trip and the latest political headlines when we come back. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back into Capitol View. Governor Asa Hutchinson made a trip to D.C. on Wednesday for an Oval Office meeting with President Trump on the corona crisis. Washington correspondent Jess Eaton reports on their conversation to restart the economy.
The message that you have that we need to get back to work and get back to business is critical.
Arkansas's Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson told President Trump his state is having an easier time restarting its economy because he was one of the few governors that did not issue a statewide stay-at-home order.
There were repercussions from it, but in terms of the economy, it's all positive.
About 5,000 Arkansans have tested positive for the virus, and about 100 have died.
If you look at any measuring stick, Arkansas is in a very good position.
Hutchinson said he'll stay the course, allowing most businesses to resume limited operations. Some never had to stop, including one of the world's largest meat processors, Tyson Foods, along with other food producers.
Sure, we might have a positive case that pops up. We're going to take care of that person, isolate, and then we're going to get back to business.
Hutchinson thanked President Trump for the additional $600 in federal weekly benefits for Arkansas's 100,000 newly unemployed. President Trump has said he supports suspending unemployment benefits, but Hutchinson tells me Arkansans need that money.
It's critically important in terms of encouraging confidence in spending and building our businesses back.
Hutchinson also asked the president to support an extension for small businesses to pay back federal loans under the Paycheck Protection Program. The governor says Arkansas businesses need more time to get fully up and running. In Washington, I'm Jess Eaton.
In April, the unemployment rate in Arkansas jumped to 10.2%, up from 5% just in March. This is, though, under the national average of 14.7%. After security and rollout issues, the pandemic unemployment website is finally reopened. The governor says over 7,000 claims have been processed and almost 70 employees working over the weekend to get more out. He also noted that over 8,000 Ready for Business grants have been handed out to small businesses across the state. Grant money will continue to be sent out today and over the weekend. Well, Governor Hutchinson said, let's play ball. And this was on Thursday. Limited contact sports like baseball, softball, track, gymnastics, and swimming can resume. Social distancing still encouraged, and anything that is shared should be disinfected in terms of equipment. Football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, and martial arts still prohibited from practicing in competition. This directive is one of the larger ones put out there because of all the different aspects of team sports, but safety and stopping the spread is at the forefront. At Friday's press conference, the governor's saying contact tracing of over half of the positive results from the day before were tracked down. 24% of those were connected to previous cases, and 37 cases were from employees. Only 4 cases were connected to people going to restaurants or gyms since reopening began. More than 100,000 people have been tested for the coronavirus in Arkansas, and the State Department of Health says we are on task to meet our monthly goal of 60,000 tests. And we're back to wrap it up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Heading into the Memorial Day weekend, we take this time to remember our fallen heroes. I visited with the Gold Star Family's Memorial Monument and talked to a couple folks who lost loved ones about what the monument means to them.
Memorial Day is, a holiday that we recognize those that gave the ultimate sacrifice to us. Memorial Day is every day.
Not a day goes by Sherry Briley doesn't think of her husband, Chief Warrant Officer Donovan Briley.
He was Black Hawk pilot.
He was killed in action in Somalia and was part of the inspiration for the movie Black Hawk Down. For Sherry, the Gold Star Monument represents all the emotions of patriotism and sacrifice that her husband gave to this country.
I know the sweat and tears and the emotions that went into this, so it is a very meaningful monument for us.
The Gold Star Monument honors those families that have endured that ultimate sacrifice their loved ones gave.
It's part of my husband being in the service. I served just as well.
Leslie Haynes' husband, Staff Sergeant Roderick Haynes, wasn't killed in action but died from a rare cancer. He did serve 3 tours during Operation Iraqi Freedom. He's originally from Michigan, and this monument means that much more to her this weekend.
Really stands out to let me know that Arkansas does care about their people, no matter if they are born, bred here, or a transplant.
Both Briley and Haynes helped design the monument. In fact, the chains were Haynes' idea. She added them to show that despite their strength to carry on, there will always be a missing link in their life.
People to come out here that have no idea, and then they read about it. They maybe even look up what the meaning of a Gold Star family is, what it consists of.
I'm glad that it's here, not just for Memorial Day.
And as we honor Memorial Day, we wanted to take time to remember those who gave it all to give us the freedoms we enjoy in this country.
Hello, I'm John Thurston, Secretary of State. This Memorial Day, we are honored to remember the many brave men and women who have given their lives throughout the history of our great nation. Behind me is the Gold Star Family's Memorial Monument on the state capitol grounds. It pays tribute to the families who lost loved ones defending our freedoms. JC and I, we want to wish you a safe and happy Memorial Day.
Life has changed for each of us, and it seems like it's a different type of Memorial Day this year. But there are some things that will never change as we take this day to remember the men and women who died while serving us in the United States military. As we honor their memory this Memorial Day, let us pledge that their lives, their sacrifices, and their valor be justified and remembered for as long as God gives life to this great nation. Ronald Reagan once said that, and it's just as true today. God bless these men and women, their families and loved ones, and God bless our great nation.
Hi, I'm Tommy Land, Commissioner of State Lands. Just want to take a moment to wish you a very happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. As we go through the weekend, let's take a moment to reflect on the sacrifices that have been done to give us the opportunity to enjoy these freedoms that we have in our country. May God bless Arkansas and the United States.
I'm Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. As we pause this Memorial Day, let's give thanks to those brave men and women of our armed forces who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms, because freedom is not free. And let's also remember our veterans who have gone on and those Gold Star families. Arkansans, let's all remember these individuals in our hearts and prayers as we gather around with our family and friends. Our armed forces have not taken time off. They have worked straight through this pandemic. And And so as you see them, say thank you. And remember those brave men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. God bless you all. God bless the state of Arkansas. And as always, God bless the United States of America.
I'm Doyle Webb, chairman of the Republican Party of Arkansas. Every time I see my dad's dog tags, I think how thankful I am for those who sacrificed so we might enjoy the freedoms we have today. Be thankful this Memorial Day.
Memorial Day is a solemn day of remembrance. It is the day when we remember those who gave it all so that we can be who we are. We are a great country, and a part of that greatness, no doubt, is because of the men and women who gave it all to make sure that we can be the free country that we are. And it is fitting and proper that on this solemn day that we stop and pause, give thanks to them, and remember that we owe them a great deal of gratitude, because without their sacrifice, America would not be America. And on this day, I say Happy Memorial Day to you, but let us never forget what this day is about.
Hi, I'm Representative Sonia Barker from District 7, and I just wanted to take a moment to help keep the memory in Memorial Day right here from this lovely spot in Smackover, Arkansas, that memorializes all 5 branches of our military service. And I just want to say a quick thank you to the family members who lost someone as they courageously sacrificed everything, as well as thank you to the brave men and women who sacrifice and serve today. May you have a blessed and safe Memorial Day weekend.
Hi, this is Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. On Memorial Day, we set time aside to honor those who paid the ultimate price to protect our freedoms. And we recognize their loved ones they left behind. We must never forget the service and sacrifice of our veterans. And we must always remain committed to honor those who serve. God bless you.